let's go to the modules. All right. So I'm trying to see if this is... Start with the schedule. So if you want to use this, feel free. This is our schedule for every day. Although this is hard to see. Hold on. See, this is where I have to go back and forth because I'm not 10 feet tall or anywhere near that, obviously. And I can't. That's better. All right, so you can see what we're doing on each day. So like today, introductions, syllabus review, and if we've got time to start on chapter 1, we'll start on chapter 1. But for each chapter, we pretty much have 2 days built in to lecture and work on the chapter. It's a lot of material for each chapter, but we do manage to get through it all. And then over here on the right is what's due on that day. If there's nothing due, then I'm just telling you, hey, read the, whatever chapter it is that we're on. So, for example, I also tell you when the assignments are available. The assignments are not available 100% right now. I do this by unit because I don't want you to get ahead of yourselves. I want you to do it at a regular pace. So right now, what you have available to you is the first unit, chapters 1, 2, and 3. When assignments come available, I've got it listed on here. Oops. So for example, on the 10th of September, that's when chapters 4, 5, and 6 will open up. Believe me, you won't want to work ahead. I don't know that I have yet to experience a student that's really been able to work ahead in this class. So you'll be fine with having to wait for those to open up. You'll have plenty of other stuff to work on. So, for example, your first assignments, the Connect online training, and I need you to download the TaxAct software by next Thursday. Easy, right? We're starting out slow. The next Thursday, you've got, and I tell you what unit it's in, your chapter 1 homework by the 4th of September. So, but before then, we will have lectured on it, right? We will have spent a couple days on chapter 1 already, and we'll probably even be starting into chapter 2. Well, we'll be starting into chapter 2 by that time. So when it's available, then chapter 2 is the next week. Again, so September 11th. And then I tell you as well, then you've got an extra week to get that unit exam done. But you'll have to be careful because, where is it? So like September 25th here. So we had chapter 3, September 18th. We've got chapter 3 that's done. The next week, you got chapter 4 that's due, but you'll also have that exam for the first unit that's due. So you've got an extra week to work on that exam for the unit. We've started into the next unit, but you've also got your first week of homework in that new unit that's due. So there's a little bit of overlap there, okay? So that'll be a bigger week for homework. So chapter 6, like I said, I give you 2 weeks on chapter 6 because it is a huge chapter. Chapter 6, we're doing, well, let's just look at the topics for the different chapters here. So chapter 1, we're just introducing taxation, the income tax formula, and taking a look at the Form 1040. Starting to get familiar with it. The income tax formula is essentially, our income minus our deductible expenses equals our taxable income, and then calculating the tax on that taxable income. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2, we get a little bit more in depth on the individual components of income and of different types of deductions. But we're still at the 30,000 foot level as far as not quite getting real in detail yet. Chapter 3, now we're going to start to get a little bit more in detail. So chapters 1 and 2, we're talking generally about income. Chapter 3, we start to talk about what is income, different types of income, how different types of income are taxed differently, how they're calculated differently, and just the difference. So like wages versus dividends versus interest income versus business income, how all of that is accounted for on the tax return. That's chapter 3. Chapter 4, some of those deductions, things that subtract from income, we start to go into detail about those. So what are called adjustments for adjusted gross income. Don't get too hung up on the words. It's just a type of deduction. Okay? Then we start talking about chapter 5, itemized deductions. It's a different type of deduction. So we got a couple different types of deductions. We'll go into detail on what the itemized deductions are and how we do those, how we calculate those, and how they fit in. Chapter 6, we start talking about, Chapter 6, we start talking about self-employed business income. These are individuals who work for themselves, individuals, not companies, but individuals who work for themselves and generate income as self-employed individuals. There are a lot of pieces to this chapter. So part of it is, figuring out what exactly is self-employed business income, what exactly counts as a deduction from self-employed business income. One of those deductions is depreciation. I told you you're going to have to forget everything you learned in financial accounting as far as depreciation goes. That's why we spend a great deal of time talking about tax depreciation, because it is so different from financial accounting depreciation. So that's one of the pieces of that. So that's why we spend 2 weeks on chapter 6, because there is so much information there. Chapter 7, we talk about capital gains and the sales of different types of property. So when you sell something that's not in the regular course of business, so you sell an asset, how that asset is treated for tax purposes differs based on what that asset was used for. So we talk about the different ways that we calculate that those taxes. Chapter 8, we have some special rules for rental income. If you have a rental property, individuals who rent apartments or houses, we go into detail about income and expenses for rental properties, as well as from what we call flow-through entities. I'm not going to talk about them in detail right now. Special type of business entity, we'll get into that when we get to chapter 8. Chapter 9, we're going to talk about tax credits. Talked before about deductions. Now we're talking about credits. Those are two different things, and they have different types of tax benefits to them. So we're going to go through the different tax credits that we have. Then, chapter 10, most students are really cool with this chapter because they've just had payroll tax. Essentially, this chapter summarizes everything that we learned in payroll. Okay, so all that stuff, I hope you didn't forget it. You still have it right up there in your mind, right? So remember how we calculated income tax withholding, Social Security and Medicare tax, unemployment taxes, all that stuff pretty much gets condensed into one chapter in this class. But you've got the background. You've all taken it. I know you're taking it right now, but you've got that background. So let's see. So that's chapter 10. Look, we're already into November. Holy cow. Chapter 14 is, we talk about payroll taxation. Partnership taxation. So particular type of business entity, partnership, and the rules around how the taxation works for partnerships. And then finally, corporate taxation. And you'll see all of this stuff. Well, chapter 14 is due. That's the week before Thanksgiving. You have nothing due the week of Thanksgiving. So you don't have that. Chapter 15 will be due on the 4th of December. And we're doing the that final exam, that final assessment exam on the 4th as well. The last 2 class periods are devoted to helping you with those comprehensive problems, those tax return problems I told you about, the tax returns on steroids, those. We've got time in class to work on those as well and ask questions. Okay, so that's the detailed schedule right there. Questions about the schedule?
With those last 2 that we're taking, the comprehensive on the 4th, if we have those problems done,
if you have those problems done, you can take off. I have to be here, but you don't.
I count on being that guy.
Okay, you might. Let's see. Okay, let me get back to. Where are we? Okay, so that's our schedule. Whiteboard images. So I did this for the payroll class as well. These are photographs of whiteboard problems and things that I've done over the years that kind of help to explain like procedures. So like this one here, qualified dividends. This is part of chapter 3 where I said we're talking specifically about different types of income and how different types of income are taxed differently. Qualified dividends, which we'll talk about, define what they are taxed differently. They have a different tax regime, and I've got 4 steps here for you to go through to help to calculate what that tax is. So that's what these whiteboard images are. They're just, to help you go through step by step some of the more complex calculations and things. And as the semester progresses, if I put something up that's particularly brilliant, which I'm inclined to do from time to time, I'll take another picture. Nobody's laughing at my jokes today. Well, you guys are also serious. What is up with that? You're ready to go to bed? You're tired by this time?
Went to bed, I think it was around 1, and my daughter came in by 6.
Oh, yeah. It's time. Okay, so accounting tutoring, that just links to, the AAC hours and stuff. So I don't know whether there's anybody. Well, I'm almost positive there's nobody in the Ankeny AAC that has a tax background. I don't know about any of the other campuses, and I don't know about online. But that's so. Your best bet is to ask me, email me, come to office hours, that sort of thing. They're great with the financial accounting. They're awesome for like principals classes and stuff like that. Let's see. We'll get to this print forms to PDF and Tax Act. This is part of part of Tax Act. In order to submit the assignment, you're going to have to print your tax forms to PDF and then upload them to the assignment portal. So this is just instructions on how to do that. Okay, so there's your Connect orientation. First thing that you have to do is download Tax Act. So right now, let me see if it's on my computer. You do not have to download it here. And in fact, you can't download it. It's already downloaded. But you're going to want to, there it is. Okay, so you're going to want to download this to whatever computer you're using at home. Your other option, though, if you don't want to download it, or if you have a Mac. Does anybody have a Mac that they're using? Okay, so you're going to have to use it through MyLab, which is the DMAC portal. So it is loaded onto your desktop on MyLab, but it doesn't, the software does not work with Mac. It only works with PC. So that's how you're going to have to, it's also available here in this lab. So everybody, look at your, what am I doing here? So this is, like I said, I walk back and forth here. Look at your desktop, and you can see Tax Act 2024. So obviously, it's not currently 2024. It's 2025. But with taxes, we're always behind because 2025 forms aren't out yet. 2025 hasn't finished yet. They usually don't put the 2020, the new tax forms out until toward the end of the year. And this year in particular, I don't know when they're going to come out because I don't know if you were paying attention, but we had a big tax bill that just passed. Yes. So, and they're still putting together regulations on how they're going to do all of that. So this is going to be an interesting tax season this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it starts late. Sometimes they do that if they're just not quite ready. Oftentimes it starts late because they pass a tax bill at the end of December or even at the beginning of January, retroactively, like you can do anything about it at that point. But this bill has a lot of different provisions in it. That the One Big Beautiful Bill, have the OBBB. So it's, as Anthony pointed out, it had the provisions of, no tax on overtime, no tax on tips. There's certain other special deductions. Now, for our homework and our assignments and everything, we are not dealing with the new tax law. This is all, it's all for 2024. So it's as though you were preparing taxes this past spring for the prior year. Okay, so everything is always a little bit behind. So that's why we're using Tax Act 2024. I'm sure a lot of programs, they may not even have the new programs out yet. But let's see, will this work? If I click on it? No? All right, fine. Oh, I did. Okay. Of course, I'm going to need to use the keyboard here. Okay, so to open that, and you all can open that, we can play around with this a little bit. In fact, here's what I'm going to do.